It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Thank you very much, Chad Erickson, and welcome to this special weekend edition of Sports Wrap. Over the next 30 minutes, we will focus our attention on player safety in the NFL, and in particular, helmets and helmet technology. Light Helmets is one of 4 helmet manufacturers that are approved by the National Football League. Nick Esayian is their CEO and their founder. I wanted to get inside his head. I wanted to get inside the industry, find out how you become an official helmet manufacturer that's approved by the NFL. Where is the technology going? How do we make the NFL and football in general and sports in general safer for the players on the field? Enjoy my recent conversation with Nick Esayian. I got to tell you something, Nick. First of all, thank you for coming on. Secondly, in doing my research for this conversation, I was shocked how many approved helmets. There's 12 different helmets that players have the option of using in a game. I figured it was 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 in terms of the style of helmet. I'm not talking about the look and all that. I'm talking about in terms of the brand and the model. There's 12 different helmets. I had no idea there were that many helmets. That alone shocked me.
Yeah, no, very true. Thanks for having me today, Jason, and look forward to chatting and jumping into the topic. The helmet space is crazy. And in the football helmet space, probably the most scrutinized piece of headgear on the planet. Maybe not the most expensive, but certainly the most scrutinized. And we saw it again this week, and that Devonta Smith hit was unbelievable. Brett was a hero of mine growing up, and he's got a tough road ahead, but I'm sure he's up for it, and his family will support him. But when you look at the helmet space, there's really only 4 companies that make football helmets. And the NFL has done a pretty good job of, putting a test in place. Obviously, it's looking backward at data that is in existence. And we're trying to take that data and we look even farther forward. But players have the option when they go in the equipment room of being able to pick whatever helmet they want. But the NFL has to approve it. And this is only in, NFL play. The equipment managers have to want to bring you in. And sometimes they have pre-existing relationships with vendors, so they'll leave someone off on the sideline. And then the player comes in and they want to learn about it. Sometimes the player wears it because the way it looks. Sometimes it's for safety. Sometimes it's, hey, your helmet weighs half as much. I want to save that weight because I want to perform better.
How long I know that this brand has been around since 2011. How long have you been approved by the NFL?
So initially we were approved in August of last year. And the NFL, for the first time in the middle of a cycle, meaning they test helmets once a year, they agreed to test our Gladiator helmet mid-season. It was August. We got it approved. The equipment managers were made aware of that. We had a couple players using it. But once a player selects a helmet early in the season, they're worried about playing football and staying healthy and the travel and everything that lays ahead. They don't make switches. This year, our new helmet was approved in April. We've even got more helmets that'll get tested this coming December. And the helmet that we have on field right now is on Cam Jordan at the Saints, Darius Robinson, the Cardinals, Tyrod Taylor, a bunch of others. And the remarkable thing is, this is the first helmet that's really that checks all the boxes from a safety perspective, but also helps with player performance. But we're having retired players that have come and approached us from, Drew Stanton, Tony Romo, who've gotten involved in the company. And it's pretty exciting for us when people that have that experience are able to go to younger players and the youth players and say, hey, this is the new technology for the future.
Do you have a way to get around these equipment managers and these teams that might have these pre-existing relationships and might be trying to shut out competition? Do you go to agents? Do you go to the Players Association? How do you get your product in front of players when you have those sorts of roadblocks?
That's a great question. And we're ready for you to start working here because you realize that it can be a problem, right? So the equipment guys fall in 3 groups. They're the guys that are super conservative. They've got their relationships. They want to wait and see. Then you've got the group that's like, we'll try it. And if somebody asks, we'll give it to them. And then there are the equipment guys, and I'll use the Lions as an example. They went out and bought 25 helmets because they said, man, this is the next generation, latest, greatest. So what we end up doing is we go to all the equipment managers, we educate them, we get them up to speed. We offer to come in and show them and their staffs and the players Why would you want to wear this? Why is the technology better? Here are all of our doctors that support this, and here's where we are with the NFL. But at the same time, agents make money when the player makes money. And there are a lot of deals that are not guaranteed deals. And if you're example, let's say you're a Brock Purdy, you're in the third year of your deal and you're making $900,000 a year, and next year you might make $50 million a year, right? Coming out of that contract.
Sure.
Do you want that guy to get 2 concussions in a year? So the agents a lot of times approach us. Family members will approach us, girlfriends, parents, the financial guys from top tier, top 1 or 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. They'll call us and say, hey, we're interested in looking at this. So now you have to cajole the equipment manager when all of a sudden someone else shows up, at their window saying, hey, the agent called and now the light helmet needs to be in the locker room. That doesn't always go over well. So we're learning the different wins of the different people that are involved, and you kind of shepherd people together and you educate them. We really rely on our doctors a lot. We've got 14 docs on our advisory board, neurologists, orthopedic surgeons, an NFL doc, Tal David, who's a head doc on the Chargers, to help educate the different people, because the people that buy a helmet are a lot different than the people that wear it in terms of their wins and why they want to purchase a helmet.
There's a lot that I want to get into with you as it relates to helmet technology and sort of both on the professional level and on the youth level. So we're going to continue the conversation. Nick Esayian is the CEO of Light Helmets. Again, the conversation revolving around head trauma, concussions is something that is extremely prevalent in the NFL. It's also prevalent in other sports, and I want to ask Nick about that as well. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do on Sports Wrap. Keep it right here. We got more with Nick Esayian on the other side.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands or your back or your hips. I'm here to tell you that joint pain doesn't have to be a life sentence. Hi, I'm John Walsh. For 40 years, I've been chasing down the culprits. And now I'm ready to throw the book at joint and muscle pain. That's why there's Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement. So I tried it, and it changed my life. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
Last week, I walked 6 blocks. I was so proud of myself. I ordered Omega XL, and now I have more energy than I ever had. It's been the best thing that I did because it relieves a lot of pain. Everything changed for the best. I can go out, I can hang out with my sisters, I can go anywhere, clean my house, do whatever I can and want to do. Now it's let's go, baby. This product is the best thing. You will remember what did it to you, and it was Omega XL.
That's the truth, the facts, and the hope that Omega XL can bring you. Case closed.
Go to OmegaXL.com/John Walsh or call the number at the bottom of your screen right now to take advantage of this special offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL, get 1 free. That's 2 bottles for only $39.95. Plus, you'll also receive a bottle of Vitamin XL D3 absolutely free. And it's backed by a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you're not satisfied, just return the unused portion for a full refund of the purchase price.
If you're living with joint or muscle pain caused by inflammation, try Omega XL and see the difference it can make in your life.
Order now to get this special offer. 2 bottles of Omega XL plus Vitamin XL D3 for only $39.95. Act now.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
Sports Wrap continues, and so does the conversation around head trauma, concussions, as it relates to football. And I thought it was important to have our guest on today. Nick Esayian is the CEO of Light Helmets. And Nick, I wanted to continue the conversation. as it relates to the technology, and you're talking about how the NFL's always looking back while you have to be looking forward, how much of a moving target, with everything we keep learning, the different studies that emerge, sometimes studies that disagree with one another as far as head trauma, how difficult is it to constantly keep updating the technology in your helmets to meet a moving target?
Sure. I mean, again, great question. One of the things you got to take into consideration is, there's not one centralized group that monitors concussions in all these different sports or spaces. There's not even one centralized group in football that records all this data. So we're looking at a lot of different studies. We talked to orthopedic specialists. We talked to trauma docs. We talked to neurologists. I was just at Baptist Health at the Innovation Summit talking there. And what we do is we look at a lot of these studies, and what you'll find is, the helmet technology, in fact, some of this stuff, this little piece here that's out of one of our Gladiator ATKs was actually developed in conjunction with the NFL and some grants and a partner of ours, Clyde in Canada. This technology will find its way into hockey helmets, motorsport helmets, et cetera, through light. But, that technology is far different in the NFL field than it is, let's say, on a youth football field. Tariq Hill can run 22 miles an hour. The only time Junior is going 22 miles an hour is when he's in his mom or dad's SUV on the way to the game. So someone will look at the NFL test and say, I want that test for my son or daughter. That helmet is not the best helmet for your son or daughter when they're 7 years old. But the things that we're finding across the board that matter are helmet weight is in a factor in terms of how severe impacts are, especially head to ground, now that the rules in football have changed, where the head-to-head contact has been greatly reduced by the changes in kickoff. You can't target, quarterback sliding, hitting above the head at all on a quarterback, even getting a hand up there. So when the rules change, some of the function changes, but the reality is physics don't change. And impact is a function of mass doubled times the velocity squared. We'll never be able to reduce velocity, but we can reduce mass. And if you just grab a bowling ball, a 3-pound bowling ball, and swing it around, the force on your wrist is a lot less than a 7. And that's what's happening to a youth or a professional player. So trying to stay ahead of it, we bring in military tech, we bring in motorsports tech, we look at the studies, we bring in our docs, and then we use firms that focus in the military space on materials to make sure we're at that cutting edge.
You mentioned, the piece that you showed going into like hockey helmets. Do you have any ideas or plans to expand beyond football and move into those other sports that still have head trauma issues and people wearing helmets?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the company that we bought the assets from, SG Helmets, was Bill Simpson and Chip Ganassi. They were in the auto race space. And if you see anything that says Simpson Racing on it, that's where this technology started. Well, he took the race space technology, brought it to football. Guys like Jeff Saturday and Dwight Freeney were wearing it back in 2011 or 12. Now we have these more advanced versions. But all of these technologies, all of the IP that exists, can be coalesced and brought to other sports where the impacts are subtly different. Because in hockey, you have a puck traveling 100 miles an hour, the post, ice, board, shoulder, stick, etc., far different than football. But the shells that we use, the shell technology, can be subtly changed in conjunction with the internals, this type of material,
right?
A 3D printed pad, the masks, and keeping weight out of the perimeter of the helmet to eliminate some of the head whip. And my example there is, if you watch UFC, someone can take a lot of damage just getting hit squarely in the forehead.
Yeah.
But when you start whipping someone's head around, that's when the knockout blow happens. It's the same thing that your cervical structure is managing, that your brainstem. So by keeping weight out of the perimeter. So by advancing this technology, we know we have a hockey helmet. We're going to get into motorsports. We're actually going to do a construction helmet. We've got the #1 flag football helmet ever tested at Virginia Tech.
I only got about 30 seconds left in this segment, so I need you to be brief on this. But when it comes to trying to get into a new sport and trying to get the attention of an NHL or a NASCAR or something like that, how difficult is it to get them to buy in as sort of the new kid on the block in that sport?
It's a great question again. If we showed up and we didn't have the credibility of being in the NFL locker room, where we did extremely well as a recommended helmet on the NFL quote unquote poster or the helmet test. It would be tough because it's one more person knocking on the door with the solution. But the fact that we have the solution and that we can commercialize it validates and gives us a credibility to go into these other sports where in the most scrutinized sport on the planet in terms of head injury, nobody's going to ace it. No helmet can protect against all injury. But the fact that we've done as well as we can, right as the new entry, they know that we have the chops to be able to pursue these other verticals and do well.
Nick Esayian is hanging out with us. Appreciate it, Nick. Lots more to do on SportsWrap. All right, one more segment here with Nick Esayian, who is the CEO of Light Helmets, who's hanging out with us on the program. How I don't think enough shows dedicate the time to this. Maybe because in some ways, Nick, it's a scary topic. Because once you get into it, now you're putting in the minds of, to bring this to youth sports a little bit, you've got parents going, oh my God, I mean, we need all this technology, and why is my kid, safe? Is football safe? All of those different things. So I wanted to talk about it from the youth perspective. How does the design change, if at all, because of the fact that kids' brains are still forming, kids' bodies are still growing? How is the technology and what you do in design any different beyond the size or weight of a helmet?
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. So the speeds of youth players far different than what you see at D1 or in the NFL. The size of youth players, meaning the torque, the force, the energy behind the impact is far less. Traditionally, you'll see, especially in younger kids, a lot of the head injuries are head to ground where the cervical structure is not developed enough. They get hit and their head swings back and slams into the ground. The National Operating Committee on Standards for Athletic Equipment, NOCSE, every football helmet, from the helmet that Tom Brady was wearing a couple of years ago to a 6-year-old on the Pop Warner field, has to be approved by NOCSE. They have a new standard that has been passed. It's forthcoming to be enforced. Requires that every helmet for players 14 and under is 3.5 pounds or less. We're the only ones that already exceed that standard. We know that when you, in a 40G impact, if you have a 6-pound helmet versus a 3.5-pound helmet, that 2.5 pounds times 30 Gs, you can do the math, is significantly greater in terms of that amount of energy when a head hits the ground or just your head snapping around on your cervical structure. So a youth helmet is far different in terms of the diameter, the squishiness of the padding, how the shell takes impact. But also, if you have a Pop Warner League in Racine, Wisconsin, which is a city I grew up in, and there are 500 helmets in the shipping container there, they can't afford a $1,000 or $1,200 helmet. So are they buying the $100 helmet that meets the bare minimum? Are they buying the helmet that can be customized in terms of the fit, because the fit is so critical for that young athlete? That's where the questions come into play. And it really becomes a parent's responsibility, especially at a youth or a high school level, to ensure, A, that the helmet that's being put on the young player fits properly, B, that it's in good condition, C, that it's the best helmet that's available to that player. Weight is a factor. And then the other thing is, and this is out of our business, we're not in this business, quote unquote, yet, but neck strength plays such a big role.
Yes.
Do you know that the most concussed sport in the United States is women's soccer? Long neck, lack of neck strength, and you have a lot of people playing, right? And so those are all things for parents to take into consideration.
I look at the prices on these, and I see like the youth model, I think it was like $499, something like that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, all the way up to the Gladiator model, which I think is around $1,000.
Yep.
How long do these last? What's the shelf life? A baseball bat, a kid buys it, these composite bats, and it's, all right, how many swings am I going to get out of it? How many points of contact before I have to go get a new one? Is there a shelf life to this? How many hits it can absorb?
So, like a lot of pieces of equipment, everything's got a shelf life. So NOCSE's determined that the shelf life for football helmets at a max is 10 years. There's about 5.65 million players in the United States that play tackle football. The number of helmets sold is somewhere around 800,000 or 900,000. So we see the average lifespan of a helmet about 5 years. because the technology changes, they get worn out, etc. Helmets have to be refurbished every 1 or 2 years. So the manufacturer has to, basically put a rubber stamp, check it out, replace parts, etc. There's a fee to that. The unique thing about our helmets that nobody else has done yet is that they're resizable. So if Junior gets a helmet and they're wearing a medium and they grow, when they send the helmet in for refurbishment, it can be resized and now become a large, so that parent can afford to make a bigger investment early on a better quality helmet. And our helmets range from $300 for a youth helmet, high school helmets in the $450, $500 range. And of course, the NFL's up in the $1,000 range. But the resizability is one of the things that we've done to make it more palatable for a parent or a youth league or a high school. So if you're a high school, think about it. If you have 200 players, you might have 270 helmets because you have too many mediums, too many extra larges. Where with ours, you can get those resized, and instead of having helmets sitting on the shelf, you can reallocate those resources to a better quality helmet.
Nick, this was fantastic. People want to learn more about it. Light Helmets is the brand. Lighthelmets.com. Nick Esayian is the CEO. I want to say thank you for coming on. I learned so much. We'll have you back on for sure because there's a lot more I can get into on this topic. We appreciate you doing it, and be well.
Thanks so much, Jason. Really a privilege to be here. Football's safer than it's ever been to play, but it's guys like you that have to shine the light on all the areas that we can continue to improve to make the game safe.
We're coming back. We'll wrap up this edition of Sports Wrap next.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
Do you use Viagra or Cialis? Have you been thinking about trying Viagra or Cialis? What if we can promise you the same results for less than $3 a pill? If you're paying $20 or more a pill for Viagra, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pill delivers the exact same results for less than $3. We'll do the math for you. You'll save more than $16 a pill for the same results. Want more? We'll give you 40 blue pills or 40 yellow pills for $99 and add 4 more pills free. You save more than $500. Stop overpaying for expensive prescriptions. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what to do next. You need to call now and get your 44 pills for just $99. Stop overpaying for Viagra. Call us anytime, day or night, and start saving big money for the exact same results. Have your credit card ready. Ordering is fast and easy, with your pills delivered to your door in a non-marked package. Call now.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a weekend edition of Sports Wrap, this special edition. But before we do, like any episode, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. I want you to think about what we heard from Nick Esayian today. We often think about the players on the field. We often think about the wins, the losses. What does it mean for our fantasy football teams? What does it mean for what we're betting on? I was recently watching a game, and a player got hurt, and I saw somebody, who had money on the game, or they were a disgruntled fan, and they actually said something like, "Well, good riddance, that player got hurt." And I'm sitting here saying, like, where are we as a society? Where are we? What sort of depravity exists in our minds to see a player who, granted, might make hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year or even more, and the first thing that crosses our mind, because how it impacts us, is, boy, I'm glad that player's off the field, when they just suffered potentially a catastrophic injury. We see this all the time. It kind of blows my mind. And then you listen to guys like Nick Esayian, who are talking about how we keep players safe. His passion beyond anything, and it really stuck out to me in the conversation we had, was how much he wants to help make the NFL safer. As much as you saw on the air, the conversations that we had during the breaks while we were putting together this show, told me that there are a lot of people out there like him that are just trying to figure out a way to make the NFL safer so players can go out there, play the game, and be able to go home to their loved ones at the end of the day without some sort of brain injury or catastrophic injury. It's something to think about as you watch your NFL over the weekend or your college football over the weekend. It's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching Sports Wrap. Thanks to Nick Esayian. We'll see you next time.